r/AskReddit. Pawn shop employees of Reddit. What is something people think is collectible or worth a lot of money, but is actually relatively worthless? Jewelry. Especially diamond rings. Yeah, you paid thousands. It's worth considerably less. Longer budget baskets. The next state over there is a now defunct basket making company whose HQ is a giant basket. They were a thing for a while, similar to Beanie Babies, until the bottom fell out of the market. People were buying these things as a long-term investment, but they are practically worthless now. People think they still have value. Thank you for explaining why the hell we had so many of those ugly baskets, and why my mom won't let me throw them out. Heh, bottom fell out of the basket market. Don't put all your eggs in the basket market. I was gonna say the same thing as well. Just because you spend $1,000 at Zales doesn't mean that the item is valued at $1,000. You're basically paying for the brand. Go to local pawn shop and get yourself something way nicer for way less. That's what I always recommend. You're also paying to get exactly what you want. Resell makes it a random piece of jewelry. You'll get a SI diamond or versus diamond at a pawn for the price of a fudge stone at Zales. Fudge stone. I believe the proper term is chocolate diamond. I hated seeing those commercials all the time when they first hit the market. They tried to upsell the hell out of those things as exclusive to their chain. Yeah, because other jewelers didn't want the fudging things. State quarters full set. So many grandmas think a full book with all the state quarters are priceless. Worth exactly as much as 50 times 25. Especially because, at least in the city I lived in when I was collecting them, you could go to the bank and specifically purchase a specific state's quarter. I have them in set for the state quarters. It's worth like $1 more. Maybe a dumb question, but how much do you buy a quarter for? At a bank. A quarter. What a deal. I've been passively collecting both sets just for me cause I think they're neat. I'm not going to tell you these coins will increase in value, or even hold their current value. The truth is, you bought them because you like them. They have value to you. That's what matters. How long are you staying? Until we find your state. I found mine. I think it's despair. More like Missouri. What's the difference? There isn't. Fine art. Every once in a while, someone finds an old master drawing, etc. in their attic, but for the most part it's mostly junk by amateurs. Also, just because family law claims a painting is by such and such a person, without concrete documentation that claim is worthless. Fine. I won't show you my great-grandmother's prized sculpture by Michelangelo she picked up in Japan on her honeymoon. Or, fine art adjacent. There's a lot of people that bought Thomas Kinkade paintings as investment pieces. The market is utterly saturated, and even several years after his death, the value of them has barely budged from the sale prices. He's not fine art adjacent. He's not even on the same continent as fine art. Sure. It has its place, but it's hardly fine art. Especially from a guy who made it his business model to crank out 1 million copies of each piece. My dad was an art teacher, used to say that Kinkade was so awful that you would get sugar diabetes just from looking at it. If you were lucky you would go blind. My mom said that the one part of the Lord of the Rings movies she didn't like were the long shots of Rivendell because they use the exact same lighting as a Thomas Kinkade painting and she really hates Thomas Kinkade. A fair assessment. Most second-hand electric guitars are significantly less expensive than they are when brand new, even if it is a major brand like Gibson or Fender. People would get offended at the offers we would make them because they didn't understand what a retail markup is and they didn't realize that most guitars lose 50% of their value the moment you purchase them. I'm a guitar and watch nerd. In both markets it's critical to buy used. There are so many nice used guitars and watches that can be bought, enjoyed for a few years, then sold for what you paid for them that it's pointless to buy new. No giraffe, you're gonna lose money. Had a friend who made a fortune flipping two-hand instruments. He'd buy a drum kit for $200 just to sell one of the cymbals for double that, keep whatever he wanted, then sell the rest of a kit with a fudgy cymbal for more than he paid. It was easier before the internet. He used the internet, but 10 years ago so a different landscape. I'm sure he's still out there, scoping for mothers selling their son's tailor for $100. You can still do this. A lot of people selling on Craigslist either don't know about reverb.com or don't want the hassle of listing and shipping gear. Craigslist is usually pretty brutal for sellers to begin with, so you can get some insanely cheap deals, then sell them on Reverb for their actual market value. SHHHHH. That's how I made money in college. Was a lot more lucrative than I let on to my friends and family at the time. Hell, I was getting stuff so cheap, I didn't even have to bother with Reverb a vast majority of the time. Oh, a Mexican telly for $200? Sure, why not? Les Paul Studio for $350? I guess I'll take it. Trade secrets, man. Don't break the hustle for the rest of us. Pawn shop employee here. Just a friendly reminder that no one wants to buy your great-grandmother's china set. Silverware at the same time. Almost all of it is just plated. And even 90% silver is not worth much unless you've got some weight. Baseball autographs after like 1935. Willie Mays, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle. Yeah, they signed thousands of things. Often lowers values of their cards. Ike. Derek Jeter came to my elementary school when I was in 4th grade and we lined up to walk out of the auditorium so he could sign a baseball card that they issued to every one of us. I had no clue who he was and cared nothing for baseball, so I just walked past him. I sometimes wonder if that was a bad move on little 10-year-old Dioramo's part, but I feel a little better knowing it wouldn't actually be worth anything today. I have a signed Jeter card from his high school team. I'm told it's worth a couple of bucks. Ken Griffey Jr.'s rookie card? Michael Jordan's rookie baseball card? Apparently not worth the card stock they were printed on. The entirety of the Topps baseball cards from the year I was born? Never seen the light of day. $25. I caught a Jeter foul ball in the upper deck. Kept the ball and had him sign another ball for me through someone my dad worked with. More sentimental than anything. He's still my favorite player. Cards in general have lost a lot of their value, mainly due to the card companies themselves. Check out the documentary Jack of All Trades for some insight into this phenomena. Pawn shop employee here. Get a ton of people bringing TVs and thinking they're going to get $100+, but the market is so oversaturated, you're most likely gonna get less than 50 even for your 60 inches TV. LMAO, I didn't know anything about pawn shops. Tried to take my 40 inches TV down there and they said they'd give me $25 like LMAO, WTF. Nature of electronics. The secondary market is trash because there's something new coming out every week. Oh, you have a 4K UHD TV. That's cool. 8Ks hit the market months ago and are steadily dropping in price even now. Not exactly this but similar. I worked in a used bookstore for years. We offered cash and store credit for trade-ins. So many people couldn't grasp that if we are selling a book for $3, it meant we would buy it for way less than that. They'd haul in a box of trash expecting a grand payday. They also didn't understand that a book being a mega bestseller or on an Oprah list or made into a movie years ago made it less valuable for us. If 10 mil people bought the book in 2012, then 2 mil have probably already traded theirs in and the other 8 mil still have it and aren't likely to buy more copies. No, you aren't getting $10 for the Da Vinci Code because we have 2 shelves full of copies selling for $6 each right over there. This is how I learned about economy. My grandmother was best friends with a used bookstore owner and Harlequin reader, and I spent many a summer days in the bookstore learning about this market. Okay, so maybe you can help me answer this then. The Harlequin ladies would come in like clockwork every couple weeks. They'd buy a dozen of them and trade the dozen they got last time in for credit. Couple weeks later, bring back the last batch they bought to get credit toward their next batch. Why did they not just use libraries? Our local libraries absolutely carried Harlequin. It just seemed like a more expensive library service for them. Their credit never equaled their cost, so they were spending money each time. Book buyers and library users tend to be different people. They offer different services. Libraries are obviously free. Bookstores tend to have better presentation. It's just a preference. On top of that, libraries get books more slowly. The bookstore can be a little trade club where new copies are always traded between the readers. Sounds like selling the books back was a way to offset the costs for their hobby a little, not meant to break even. My mom is one for buying the used books. She frequents a sell for half by 4/4 place. Her reason for it is not worrying about them. She likes to read while taking a bath or traveling, and being able to ruin a book and just not care. If they're reading a dozen books every couple weeks, they'll run out of new ones in the library in like a month. Swarovski crystal ain't worth shit. Swarovski binoculars on the other hand. And their scopes too. Don't tell my girlfriend that. I sell things online, and one thing people never seem to understand is that just because you paid a certain amount for something doesn't mean it's actually worth anywhere near that. Even worse, often they think it's worth more than they paid for it because they are just that savvy. In the auto industry you see it with truck guys all the time. Some rabbit bottom goes out and buys the biggest truck they can find, but the payments eat them alive. So a year later they're at a dealer trying to get out of it. Yeah, its sticker price is $56,000, but I got it for $40,000. Great deal. Our used car manager says he will give you $32,000. Man, that's crazy. That's a $56,000 truck. Then you find out they were hoping to get $52,000 for it, because someone would have to pay $56,000 brand new. It's like, no, they'd pay $40,000 brand new. You know that because that's what you paid. And that's brand new, not a 6-month-old truck with a dented driver door and 12,000 miles. Fudge. I had one kid come in with this 25-year-old Chevy truck in rough shape and a broken odometer. He told me how he bought it for $750. He was offered $750 for it and he was insulted because it was at least worth $3,000. Same on Craigslist. People are delusional. No lowballers. I know what I have. And on the flip side, the unreasonably cheap would-be buyer. $200 for that? I can get one for $100. Dart. Okay, cool. Go buy that one. Can I trade some scuba equipment for it? Thank you for watching. Subscribe, and have a wonderful day, you internet people.